Yesterday, Fortnite got a huge update to celebrate May the 4th that introduced 9 brand new prequel skins to the game, along with backblings, pickaxes, and a hell of a lot more. And as a Fortnite and Star Wars fan, this update was epic, no pun intended, and I cannot wait to grind the event to get all of the remaining Star Wars content that I didn't have to buy. But this update got a whole lot of people thinking the exact same thing. Why the hell is there no large-scale Star Wars live service multiplayer game at the moment? What we had with Star Wars Battlefront 2 was pretty much perfect, where we were getting monthly content updates inspired by current and past content in the forms of heroes, skins, maps, vehicles, and more. And it really was every Star Wars fan's dream, and it was a game that could genuinely get content added to it for countless years, but we all know what happened just over 3 years ago as of last week. Now, the unfortunate reality seems to be that within the foreseeable future we will not be getting any multiplayer game in the form of Star Wars Battlefront. Now, the next multiplayer game to release is Star Wars Hunters, which I'm hoping will finally have a release date announced very soon for this year, and that will be on mobile and Switch. But Star Wars Hunters is a 4 vs 4 game, so there's no way it can get the same sense of scale that Battlefront 2 did, and with it having its own story and everything within the Star Wars canon, it's not a game where you can just go and add Darth Vader and Anakin and everything else from the past or even the future of Star Wars, so it won't necessarily have that same level of immersion either. Now, if we look at other Star Wars games releasing, none of them seem to be large-scale multiplayer in any way. Star Wars Eclipse is rumoured to have some multiplayer, but I can't see that being a Battlefront-like game. Respawn are also currently working on a Star Wars FPS game, but that mostly seems to be more of a story-based game. And I do expect that to have some form of multiplayer, but like Squadrons, I think it'll be a fairly small-scale shooter. And then everything else at the moment just seems to be heavily story-based, and if it does have multiplayer, then it'll sort of be your own character or something, a bit like the Ubisoft open world Star Wars game. I imagine that'll be a little bit like Division, where there's a canon story, but you just get to create your own character. So it really is bizarre to me that there's just nothing going on for Star Wars multiplayer, because if you look at the amount of TV shows we've been getting, every single year you could just get so much content for it. Taking a look back to last year, if there was a Star Wars game like Battlefront 2, or let's just say Battlefront 2 was still around, at the start of the year you could have had content inspired by the Book of Boba Fett. Later in the year, around sort of now or even next month, you could have had tons of content inspired by the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. And then later in the year you could have had content inspired by Andor. Going into this year, then you would have had Bad Batch Season 2 inspired content, Mandalorian Season 3 inspired content. Later in the year we could have then had Ahsoka content, as well as Skeleton Crew as well. And that's not to mention the fact that Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and even stuff from the other films and previous seasons of TV shows weren't even included in Battlefront 2 either. Now, I'm going to say it again, but it really is just so baffling to me. If Battlefront 2 was still getting content, or if there was Battlefront 3 or a similar game, then if they monetized it well enough, they would be able to just make so much money off of it. Looking back to Battlefront 2, the game was £60 at launch, or $60 depending on where you're from. And that game sold over 10 million copies fairly quickly as far as I'm aware, so that already is a large sum of money coming into the company. But then if you actually monetized it properly, whether you had a battle pass or if you just sold skins for credits and crystals like they did eventually with Battlefront 2, and there was no pay to win at all, then no doubt if there was loads of content coming in from other Star Wars media, then people would be buying that straight away. Or at least at some point they would be paying for premium currency so they could buy their favourite skins for their favourite characters, and no doubt that would make millions or even potentially billions later on. Now, it seems like at the time EA were put off by making a Battlefront 3 because of the 20% licensing fee, but licensing fee or not, if you're making millions upon maybe billions from a Star Wars game, 20% is not really going to make a massive dent in your back pocket. So to me it really is just a very lame excuse. But again, it's also just very bizarre because it would literally be just guaranteed money coming in. Star Wars fans are hugely passionate, so if you add characters who they absolutely adore into the game, then you'll find them playing the game for hours upon hours, and if you add their favourite skins locked behind a $5 paywall, then no doubt millions of people would be going and jumping to buy that. Now, I sadly can't see EA making a Battlefront 3 ever, which is a real shame because what DICE did with Battlefront 2 in the end was incredible, and I'd love to see that make a return. But at this point I honestly actually would love to see Epic Games do it instead. What they've done with Fortnite is exceptional in pretty much every way, regardless of whether you like Fortnite or not. Over the last 5.5 years they've adapted the gameplay quite a lot. They've added countless weapons and different weapon variations over the years. They've had really good gunplay, really good movement, some pretty fun melee stuff as well, along with a huge sense of scale with the maps. loads of in-game events, and obviously they've added some awesome style skins over the last few years, so honestly, why the hell shouldn't they make it? I think with the overall aesthetic as well, they could just keep Fortnite's, to be honest. It doesn't need to be fully photoreal like Battlefront 2 from DICE was. And since they'd be so used to doing this with Fortnite, I think they'd be in a good spot for a Star Wars game. And I think it also just allows them to have a little bit more creative freedom with the stylization. Now, as much as I would like to see that happen, I can't see that happening, unfortunately, because I think Epic will be too focused on Fortnite. And no doubt when Star Wars skins do come into Fortnite, they make so much money anyway. Now, I know I've already had this discussion with many of you a lot of times, and no doubt you've heard it all before from other people as well, but it really does just suck so much that we have nothing going on in the large-scale multiplayer space. And I really do hope that we hear something relatively soon, though if we're being realistic, I can't see that being the case. Let me know what you think about this situation in the comments below though, guys, and in the meantime I will keep covering Star Wars content, whether it's in Fortnite, or of course I've got tons of Jedi Survivor content on the way, and hopefully we'll hear something soon about Star Wars Hunters and when that's releasing, because when it does release I'll be streaming and playing that game and making so much content for it as well, so hopefully you are excited for that. And if you are, then do make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because there's going to be tons from me over the next few years. That is it from me today though, thank you all very much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.